Spider-Man Far From Home is a movie directed by Jon Watts, who directed the prequel Spider-Man Homecoming. This movie acts as both a sequel to that movie and Avengers Endgame. And right off the bat, I want to put two things about this review. A, I will not be spoiling any of the more intricate details. This is going to be a shorter, vaguer review, basically saying overall what I liked, what I didn't like, that kind of thing. The second thing is I will be talking about spoilers for Endgame. It's just going to happen. The movie came out a couple months ago. It seems like everybody and their mother went and saw it at least 2 times. So quite frankly, you've been warned if you haven't seen it. I don't know how you haven't seen it / heard spoilers about it. I do not get it, but that's all I'm going to say on the matter. First up, I want to talk about what I really enjoyed about the movie. And there's a lot to unpack here because I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. I really enjoyed the movie. If you're a Spider-Man fan, you're going to dig it. There is a duality they do in the storytelling for Peter Parker and Spider-Man, being that Peter Parker has his own story, Spider-Man has his own story, and the fact that they both have different stories gets in the way of each other. So, of course, obviously, Peter Parker is going on this field trip with his friends, and his love interest, MJ, he has this whole plan figured out on how he wants to talk to her, how he wants to, high school drama, high school boyfriend-girlfriend stuff. He has a plan. However, on the other hand of his identity is Spider-Man, somebody who needs to fight injustice, protect the little guy, step into Tony Stark's ginormous shoes that were left behind, because that's another thing that Spider-Man Far From Home deals with. It deals with the whole no more Iron Man situation. Who's going to step up and be the next Iron Man? And the world is kind of looking Spider-Man's direction, saying, hey, he likes you. He saw something in you. Can you step up? It's a big theme that Spider-Man has to deal with, and it gets in the way of Peter Parker's, I want to be a kid, just a normal guy who does normal things. And that is really the main heart of the movie, is how does Peter Parker balance being Spider-Man, and also maybe even balance being the new, not Iron Man, but the person who steps into that role. So, big core theme of the movie. I really enjoyed the story behind it. Honestly, it's a big trope for, Peter Parker and Spider-Man to be the 2 biggest plot lines in the movie, and it worked really well here. I think they did a really good job. Next thing I really enjoyed about the movie is Jake Gyllenhaal in the role of Mysterio. The trailers don't do a lot with Mysterio, and for a pretty good reason. He's a very complicated character in the movie, and Jake Gyllenhaal does a really good job portraying that. I don't want to talk too much about Mysterio because there's a lot that I could potentially give away here, and I don't want to, because I loved going into the movie pretty blind. Even based off just what I knew from the trailers, I feel like I didn't even want to know that much, if I'm being completely honest. But really liked Jake Gyllenhaal in the movie. He was super great. Even the scenes where Mysterio / Quentin Beck and, Peter Parker are just talking in the movie are very entertaining. They kept me glued the entire time. He does a fantastic job bouncing off each other. And Nick Fury is also added into that mix, and it does a really good job. Overall, the main cast, Nick Fury, Quentin Beck, Peter Parker, MJ, their interactions drive the story forward in the best possible way. Next up, I want to talk about the action. There's not a lot to talk about here. It's a Spider-Man movie coming out in summer blockbuster season. The action's going to be good. It looks great. It feels great. Your adrenaline starts going. Your heart rate skyrockets. It's good action. It's a summer blockbuster. Of course, it's going to be good. Not much to talk about there. So honestly, overall, the story, well written. The next thing I would say is the comedy. It's an MCU movie produced by Disney. It's going to have the MCU comedy in it. It's kind of been quoted a bunch. Plenty of people say it. The MCU movies have too much humor in it. They need to level out and be a little more relaxed. I personally have never found any issue with the humor, if I'm being kind of honest. When Thor Ragnarok came out, I thought it was perfect just because it was trying to be funnier. It was more self-aware as a comic book movie. Spider-Man Far From Home, it has a lot of good funny moments. However, there are a few times where the jokes just didn't land. Fortunately, the jokes never outstay themselves. If they were awkward and cringy to you, they get swept away pretty quickly. So, pretty good on that front. I probably enjoyed about 80% of the humor here. So let's get into some of my gripes with the movie. I don't have a ton of them, and some of them may even be nitpicky. There are 2 kind of subplots in the movie that don't go anywhere. They involve other people on the field trip with Peter, and they just don't go anywhere. By the end of the movie, they don't matter anymore. And honestly, I had forgotten about them before I started going over everything in my head again. The next issue I would say is some of the pacing is a little strange. It's a little slow. There are some parts that kind of overstay its welcome, and you're just ready for the action to move forward. You're ready to see what happens next. And the scenes are just kind of playing out a little slower than you'd like. Not too much. I would say only about maybe 15%, 10% of the movie dragged a little bit for me. And I could have seen them shaving off 10, 15, 20 minutes of the movie. But again, small gripe for me. Nothing wrong with it here. My last gripe I would like to point out is more maybe an issue for me. It was predictable. Once you saw where things were going, you kind of just saw how things were going to end 20, 30, 40 minutes before it happens. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, and it might not even matter to you. Like, a lot of people might not see it coming, and that's great. I've watched a ton of movies, a ton of TV shows that probably had a part in playing into it. But at the end of the movie, I wasn't very surprised. Next up, let's talk a little bit about the end credits. I'm not going to go into details, of course. There are 2 end credit scenes. The first one being the mid-credit scenes happens about 2 minutes into the credits, rather. This is really common practice for Marvel movies where they do their cool animated credits where all the actors and the directors get their names thrown up on screen in bright flashing displays and such. There is an end credit scene that happens right after that, and then there is a scene that happens after, the remaining 10, 12 minutes of credits that roll afterward. It's probably not that long. It just feels that long. I would say the first one is the more important one and the crazier one. I honestly can't believe they did that, what they did. And as soon as you see it, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about but I'm not going to go into specifics because you're just going to have to go see it yourself. The next end credit scene, MCU end credit scenes have mostly been jokes lately. It used to be that these were these final crazy, future setting up stuff, and honestly, this one kind of does that a little bit more. I do highly recommend going to go see Far From Home. There's a lot of spoilers. You could definitely get it spoiled for you if you don't go see it soon enough. So the sooner the better. I've been Alex, and I am signing out. I will see you all in the next one.
He's no Spider-Man.
What is it with you and Spider-Man?
What, he looks out for the neighborhood, has a dope suit, and I really respect him. Sup, dickwad?